Could you provide an overview of what Adult Protective Services actually does?
Yes, Adult Protective Services will get a referral for abuse, neglect, financial exploitation. In some states, they even investigate reports of self-neglect. The basic things that APS is looking for is they're looking at my capacity, mental capacity. Do I appear to have the ability to give informed consent? If I'm dependent, in what way am I dependent? Do I need help with activities of daily living, independent activities of daily living? What is it that I can do for myself that I can't do for myself? And as important, for those things that I can't do for myself, am I able to manage that? Am I able to get someone to help me? And then they're looking to substantiate whether abuse, neglect, or exploitation happened. So in that whole package, they're looking at capacity, dependency, and they're looking to investigate abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation.
Is there an Adult Protective Services in every state?
Yes, there is, in all 50 states.
And is that governed by state or federal law?
State laws, and it varies, and that's the interesting thing with Adult Protective Services. There isn't a federal mandate similar to what people are used to with Child Protective Services, for example, where definitions are the same and a lot of data collection. So that's why I would encourage people, no matter what state you're in, is to take a look at the Adult Protective Services Act or the enabling legislation to look at that. It varies. It varies on who they investigate. Some, for example, are 18 and older, because it's based on incapacity and dependency, and some are based on age, and some of it is 60 or 65.
Adult Protective Services receives referrals from the community, and anybody in the community can make a referral. Adult Protective Service workers go out in the field and they investigate the client in their environment, the environment where they're being abused. So they go out to determine whether abuse is indeed occurring, and that can be through interviewing the person who's allegedly abused, any person in that person's surrounding, neighbors, friends, relatives, doctors. So the interview and the investigation is quite extensive. We work with law enforcement to help investigate this because there's a social service perspective and there's a law enforcement perspective, but we work collaboratively to investigate these allegations. There are clients who have capacity and those are clients who don't have capacity. If you're determined to have capacity, you have the right to self-determination, which means you can make a decision that people don't agree with. But when you don't have capacity, that's where it changes a bit, because then we may have to go for a more restrictive intervention, which means we might even have to go to court for guardianship if we feel like you're making bad decisions based on your capacity issues.
I often hear what appears to me to be a confusion between a law enforcement investigation and an Adult Protective Services investigation. And it sounds like they're two different things. Can you describe some of those differences?
Yes, Adult Protective Services is a social work perspective in some jurisdictions where we go out to see socially what's going on. We are not there to prove abuse. We're not there to determine whether somebody has broken the law, but we're going there to determine whether or not someone has a social service need.
Well, the police would look into whether a crime has occurred. So that's our role. And if a crime's occurred, like I said, investigate it and pursue it. While DSHS, or Adult Protective Services, their role is more of a civil investigation. So it would be, for example, if a vulnerable adult has a caregiver and that caregiver has not fulfilled their obligations or is neglecting or abusing the vulnerable adult, then they would have their own civil administrative hearings to try maybe and remove this caregiver. And their track is a civil track, and our track as police is a criminal, whether we are going to have a criminal case or not.
We need to do a better job about what we think abuse and neglect and exploitation might be. It may be in an Adult Protective Services statute, but it certainly might not be in the criminal statute. Law enforcement is asking us, what's the crime? Tell me, I'll investigate. And APS is saying, well, this person's been abused, investigate and prosecute, when maybe that doesn't even go together. So there is a difference. We need to tie Adult Protective Services and that investigation of whether I have capacity and whether I've been abused and neglected to what are those criminal statutes that our partners in law enforcement can help us come in and gather evidence and prosecute. So on one side, we may be in an APS situation where the person may not have been abused or neglected, and needs help, that to me is a different kind of case, providing resources, offering a case plan, hooking the person up with family members if they want to, allowing that senior to make the decisions and drive that process, as opposed to a crime has been committed, regardless of age, even for those of us who are older, and law enforcement is going to investigate that and see if it's prosecutable.